It was a cold December morning, and the wind outside John F. Kennedy International Airport whipped through the air with an icy bite. Inside Terminal 4, passengers hustled to their gates, dragging suitcases behind them and clutching boarding passes tightly in their hands. Among the crowd stood Maya Robinson, a young woman whose confidence radiated even amidst the chaos of travelers. Dressed in a sleek navy blue coat and knee-high boots, Maya looked every bit the part of a successful marketing executive. She had just wrapped up attending a major industry conference in New York City, where she'd networked with some of the biggest names in her field. Now, all she wanted was to relax during her flight back home to Los Angeles. Maya's ticket promised her a comfortable ride in first class, a rare treat for someone who usually flew economy. As she approached the gate agent to check in, she couldn't help but smile at the thought of sinking into one of those plush leather seats, sipping on complimentary champagne, and enjoying the extra legroom after days of running around the city. But as she waited in line, something caught her attention. A few rows ahead, a pregnant woman struggled to manage two large carry-on bags while simultaneously trying to keep her balance. Her face was flushed, beads of sweat forming on her forehead, despite the chilly weather inside the terminal. Every movement seemed labored, and it was clear that this journey wasn't going to be easy for her. The sight tugged at Maya's heartstrings. She'd always been taught by her grandmother to look out for others, especially those who appeared to need help. Growing up in a tight-knit community, Maya learned early on that small acts of kindness could go a long way. Still, giving up her first-class seat felt like a big decision. It wasn't just about comfort, it was also about what she deserved after working so hard. Yet, as she watched the pregnant woman shuffle awkwardly toward the economy section, Maya knew deep down that staying silent wasn't an option. When it was finally her turn to board, Maya hesitated. She glanced at her ticket again, then back at the woman who was now seated near the middle of the plane, surrounded by cramped rows and narrow aisles. The contrast between her own luxurious seat assignment and the discomfort the woman would endure throughout the 6-hour flight became impossible to ignore. Taking a deep breath, Maya walked over to the nearest flight attendant and politely asked if there was any way she could switch her seat with the pregnant passenger. "I'm happy to move to economy," Maya said softly, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her chest. "She looks like she could really use the space." The flight attendant blinked in surprise, clearly not used to such requests. After a moment of hesitation, she nodded and assured Maya that arrangements could be made. Within minutes, the announcement came over the intercom. "Attention passengers, we have a special request. If you are currently seated in row 12, please let us know. We may have an opportunity to upgrade your seating." Curious murmurs rippled through the cabin until the pregnant woman raised her hand timidly. When the flight attendant confirmed her identity, the woman's eyes widened in disbelief. Moments later, Maya approached her, offering a warm smile. "Hi," she began gently. "I noticed you might appreciate some more room, so I switched my seat with yours. Please don't worry. It's no trouble at all." The woman stared at Maya for a long moment before tears welled up in her eyes. She placed a hand on her swollen belly and whispered, "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." Her name, she revealed, was Sarah, and she was traveling alone because her family lived across the country. With no one to rely on, she'd been dreading the long flight, worried about how she'd cope with the physical strain. Maya's unexpected generosity brought her immense relief and a glimmer of hope she hadn't felt in weeks. As Sarah gathered her belongings and moved toward the front of the plane, Maya took her place in the economy section. Though the seat was smaller and less comfortable than what she'd originally booked, she didn't regret her decision for a second. In fact, as the plane taxied down the runway and lifted into the sky, Maya felt lighter somehow, as though she'd shed a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying. She reminded herself that sometimes the greatest rewards come not from what we gain but from what we give away. But little did Maya know, this act of kindness was only the beginning. Somewhere high above the clouds, destiny was already weaving threads that would connect her life to Sarah's in ways neither of them could have imagined. For now, though, Maya simply leaned back in her seat, closed her eyes, and let the hum of the engines lull her into a peaceful state. Outside the window, the world stretched endlessly below, vast and full of possibilities. And somewhere within that vastness lay the seeds of a story that would change both their lives forever. As the plane soared smoothly through the clouds, Maya settled into her economy seat, adjusting her scarf to ward off the slight chill in the air. The hum of the engines and the occasional murmur of passengers created a calming background noise, but Maya's mind was still buzzing with thoughts about what had just happened. She replayed the moment she gave up her first-class seat for Sarah, the look of shock and gratitude on the pregnant woman's face, and felt a quiet sense of pride. It wasn't often that she did something so selfless without expecting anything in return, and it left her feeling unexpectedly fulfilled. Her seatmate, an older gentleman with silver hair and kind eyes, seemed to notice her reflective mood. He leaned over slightly, his voice warm and gentle. "Excuse me," he said, "but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation earlier. That was quite a generous thing you did back there." Maya smiled shyly, brushing a strand of her curly black hair behind her ear. "Oh, it wasn't a big deal," she replied modestly. "I just figured she needed the space more than I did." The man chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Not many people would give up their comfort like that, especially when they've earned it. You're definitely one of the good ones." His words made Maya blush, but they also sparked her curiosity. "Thank you," she said. "That means a lot. But honestly, I think anyone else would have done the same if they were in my shoes." "Well," the man countered with a twinkle in his eye, "you'd be surprised how rare that kind of kindness is these days." He extended his hand toward her. "By the way, my name is Dr. Henry Carter, retired obstetrician, used to deliver babies for a living." "Nice to meet you, Dr. Carter," Maya said, shaking his hand firmly. "I'm Maya Robinson. I work in marketing, though I can't say it's nearly as exciting as delivering babies." Dr. Carter laughed heartily, the sound rich and comforting. "Marketing has its own challenges, I'm sure. But tell me, Maya, what drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?" The question caught Maya off guard. She hadn't expected to dive into such a deep conversation with a stranger, but something about Dr. Carter's demeanor put her at ease. She began thoughtfully. "I guess I like solving problems and coming up with creative ways to connect people with products or ideas. It's rewarding, sometimes." "But?" Dr. Carter prompted, sensing the hesitation in her tone. "But," Maya admitted after a pause, "there are days when I feel like I'm not really making a difference. Like, sure, I'm helping companies sell things, but does it actually matter in the grand scheme of things? Does it improve lives? Or am I just chasing success for the sake of it?" Dr. Carter nodded slowly as if he understood exactly where she was coming from. "You know, I asked myself similar questions when I was younger. Back then, I wanted to be a surgeon because it seemed impressive. But during my residency, I realized I enjoyed working with expectant mothers more than anything else. There's something magical about bringing new life into the world and supporting families during such a pivotal time." "That sounds amazing," Maya said sincerely. "I can't imagine being responsible for something so important." "It wasn't always easy," Dr. Carter admitted. "Long hours, sleepless nights, difficult cases. But every time I saw a newborn take their first breath or watched a mother hold her child for the first time, it reminded me why I chose this path. And let me tell you, those moments stayed with me long after I retired." Maya listened intently, captivated by his stories. He spoke passionately about mentoring young doctors, advocating for better maternal health care, and even volunteering in underserved communities. Each anecdote painted a picture of a life dedicated to service and compassion. For someone like Maya, who had spent years climbing the corporate ladder, hearing about a career rooted in purpose was both inspiring and humbling. "What about you?" Dr. Carter asked after a while. "Have you ever thought about stepping outside your comfort zone? Doing something that might challenge you but ultimately leaves a lasting impact?" Maya hesitated, unsure how to answer. She had never considered leaving her stable job or venturing into unfamiliar territory. Yet the idea lingered in her mind. planting seeds of possibility. "I don't know," she said finally. "I've always played it safe, I guess, sticking to what I know. But today, giving up my seat for Sarah, it felt good, really good, like maybe I should do more things like that." "Really?" Carter smiled knowingly. "Sometimes all it takes is one small act to set you on a new path. You never know where it might lead." Their conversation continued throughout the flight, weaving between lighthearted banter and deeper reflections. They talked about everything from travel experiences to favorite books, but the theme of purpose kept resurfacing. By the time the plane began its descent into Los Angeles, Maya found herself reluctant to say goodbye. Dr. Carter had given her much more than friendly company. He had opened her eyes to the potential for change, both within herself and in the world around her. As they gathered their belongings and prepared to disembark, Dr. Carter handed Maya a business card. "If you ever decide to explore opportunities beyond marketing, feel free to reach out," he said with a wink. "Who knows, maybe we'll cross paths again someday." Maya accepted the card gratefully, tucking it safely into her pocket. "Thank you, Dr. Carter, for everything. This conversation meant a lot to me." With a final nod and a warm smile, they parted ways at the gate. As Maya stepped onto the jet bridge, she felt a renewed sense of energy coursing through her veins. The city of Los Angeles stretched out before her, bustling with life and endless possibilities. And for the first time in a long while, she wondered, what if she could make a bigger difference? What if today's act of kindness was just the beginning of something greater? Unbeknownst to Maya, fate had already begun aligning the pieces of her future. Little did she know that the ripple effects of her generosity would soon bring unexpected opportunities and challenges that would test her, resolve and reshape her journey in ways she couldn't yet fathom. A few weeks had passed since Maya's flight back to Los Angeles, and life had mostly returned to its usual rhythm. She was busy juggling deadlines at work, attending meetings, and brainstorming new campaigns for her clients. Yet, no matter how hectic her schedule became, she couldn't shake the memory of that day on the plane. The pregnant woman named Sarah, the thoughtful conversation with Dr. Carter, and the nagging feeling that there was more she could be doing with her life. It wasn't just a fleeting thought anymore. It lingered in the corners of her mind like a gentle whisper, urging her to pay attention. One afternoon, as Maya sat at her desk scrolling through emails, something unusual caught her eye. A handwritten envelope tucked among the bills and promotional flyers in her mailbox. Curious, she opened it carefully, revealing a neatly folded letter inside. The handwriting was delicate but steady, and as she began reading, her heart skipped a beat. It was from Sarah, the woman whose seat she had given up on the flight. "Dear Maya," the letter began, "I hope this note finds her well. I've been meaning to write to you ever since our paths crossed on that plane, but finding the right words has been harder than I expected. First, let me say thank you. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your selflessness. You didn't have to give up your seat for me, yet you did so without hesitation. That act of compassion meant more to me than I can express." Maya paused, rereading those lines several times. She hadn't anticipated hearing from Sarah again, and the sincerity in the letter brought tears to her eyes. She continued reading, eager to see what else Sarah had to say. "At the time we met, I was going through one of the toughest periods of my life," Sarah wrote. "I'm raising this baby alone, and sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. Financial struggles, loneliness, doubts about whether I'm strong enough, it all felt overwhelming. But when you gave me that first-class seat, it reminded me that there are still good people in this world who care. Your gesture gave me hope when I needed it most." Sarah went on to share details about her pregnancy journey, explaining how she'd moved to California to start fresh after leaving an unhealthy relationship. Though she was determined to provide a better future for her unborn child, the road ahead seemed daunting. She worked long hours at a retail job while attending night classes to earn her degree, often sacrificing sleep and personal time to make ends meet. Despite her resilience, she admitted to feeling isolated and unsure if she could keep going some days. But then you came along, Sarah wrote, and showed me that even strangers can show love and kindness. Because of you, I decided to push forward, not just for myself, but for my baby. I want her to grow up knowing that the world is full of goodness even when it doesn't seem like it. In fact, I've decided to name her Maya after you. Every time I look at her, I'll remember the strength and compassion you shared with me that day. By the time Maya reached the end of the letter, tears were streaming down her face. She hadn't realized the depth of impact her simple act had made on Sarah's life. Naming her child after her? It was such an extraordinary gesture, one that filled Maya with awe and gratitude. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen and appreciated, not for her professional achievements or social status, but for simply being human. Determined to respond, Maya grabbed a pen and paper and poured her heart into a reply. She thanked Sarah for sharing her story and expressed how honored she was to play a small role in her journey. She also asked if they could meet in person once the baby arrived, hoping to offer support in whatever way she could. Sending the letter felt like extending a lifeline, not just to Sarah but to herself as well. Months later, Maya received another message from Sarah, an invitation to visit her at the hospital after the baby's birth. Excited and nervous, Maya cleared her schedule and headed to the maternity ward, clutching a gift bag filled with essentials for the newborn. When she entered the room, she found Sarah sitting up in bed, cradling a tiny bundle wrapped in a soft, pink blanket. Her face glowed with exhaustion and joy, a testament to the miracle of motherhood. "Maya? Meet Maya," Sarah said with a radiant smile, gently rocking the sleeping infant in her arms. "This is your namesake." Maya gasped, overcome with emotion. She approached the bedside cautiously, peering down at the little girl who bore her name. The baby stirred slightly, her tiny fingers curling around Maya's pinky as if recognizing her presence. In that moment, Maya felt an unexplainable connection, not just to the baby, but to Sarah as well. They may have started as strangers, but their bond now felt profound and unbreakable. Over the next hour, Maya and Sarah talked openly, sharing stories and dreams for the future. Sarah confessed that she still faced challenges but felt stronger knowing she wasn't alone. Inspired by her determination, Maya offered to help however she could, whether it was babysitting, running errands, or simply being someone to lean on during tough times. As Maya left the hospital that evening, her thoughts swirled with possibilities. Meeting Sarah and little Maya reignited the spark of purpose she'd felt during her conversation with Dr. Carter. She realized that her desire to make a difference wasn't just a passing thought. It was a calling waiting to be answered. And perhaps this newfound connection was the universe nudging her in the right direction. That night, unable to sleep, Maya picked up her phone and began researching volunteer opportunities in her community. She discovered local organizations dedicated to supporting single mothers, underprivileged families, and children in need. One program in particular stood out, a mentorship initiative aimed at teaching parenting skills, financial literacy, and career development to young moms striving to build better lives for themselves and their kids. Without hesitation, Maya signed up to volunteer. What started as a small step quickly snowballed into a passion project. Each week, she spent hours preparing workshops, gathering resources, and connecting with participants who reminded her of Sarah. Their stories resonated deeply with her, fueling her determination to create change. Slowly but surely, Maya began carving out a new path, one rooted in service, empathy, and love. Little did she know these efforts would lay the foundation for something far greater than she could have imagined. As her involvement grew, so did her vision. And somewhere along the way, Maya stopped wondering what her purpose was because she finally understood. It was standing right in front of her all along. Maya's journey into volunteering quickly became the most fulfilling part of her life. Every Saturday morning, she woke up with a sense of excitement that had been missing for years. Gone were the days when weekends meant catching up on work, emails, or scrolling through social media in bed. Now her mornings began with a steaming cup of coffee, a quick review of her notes for the day, and a drive to the community center where she volunteered. The center was a modest building tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, But inside, it buzzed with energy. Mothers carrying babies in slings, toddlers clutching toys, and older kids coloring at tables filled the space with laughter and chatter. At first, Maya wasn't sure what to expect. She had signed up to help lead workshops, but she didn't know how much of an impact she could really make. Her initial plan was simple: teach basic skills like budgeting, meal planning, and time management to single mothers who were trying to balance work, childcare, and their own well-being. But as she got to know the women attending the sessions, she realized they needed more than just practical advice. They needed encouragement, connection, and hope. One woman, Maria, stood out to Maya almost immediately. A single mother of 3, Maria worked 2 jobs to provide for her family while studying online to earn her high school diploma. Despite her exhausting schedule, she showed up to every workshop with a notebook in hand, ready to learn. During one session, Maya asked the group to share their biggest challenges. When it was Maria's turn, she hesitated before speaking. "I feel like I'm failing my kids," she admitted, her voice trembling. "No matter how hard I try, I can't give them everything they deserve." Her words struck a chord with everyone in the room, including Maya. It reminded her of Sarah and the struggles she faced during her pregnancy. In that moment, Maya knew she had to do more than just teach financial tips. She needed to create a safe space where these women could feel supported and empowered. With renewed determination, Maya expanded the scope of the program. She reached out to friends, colleagues, and local businesses for donations, gathering resources like diapers, formula, clothing, and school supplies. She organized guest speakers, nutritionists, career counselors, and mental health professionals to address topics beyond basic survival. She even started a mentorship component, pairing participants with volunteers who could offer guidance and friendship outside of the workshops. The response was overwhelming. Women who had once felt isolated found camaraderie in the group. They exchanged phone numbers, shared recipes, and leaned on each other during tough times. For many, the program became a lifeline, a place where they could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. Maya watched as confidence replaced doubt, smiles replaced tears, and dreams replaced despair. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments when Maya doubted herself, wondering if she was truly making a difference. One particularly challenging day came when a young mother named Jasmine stopped coming to the sessions. Jasmine had been one of the most enthusiastic participants, always eager to ask questions and participate in discussions. When Maya noticed her absence, she decided to visit her at home. Jasmine lived in a small apartment complex on the outskirts of town. The building looked worn down, with peeling paint and flickering fluorescent lights in the hallway. Maya knocked gently on Jasmine's door, unsure of what to expect. When Jasmine answered, her eyes were red from crying, and her usually vibrant demeanor seemed dimmed. "I'm sorry I missed the last few meetings," Jasmine said quietly, inviting Maya inside. "Things have just been hard." As they sat together in Jasmine's cramped living room, surrounded by piles of laundry and toys scattered across the floor, Maya listened intently. Jasmine explained that she had lost her job due to cutbacks at work and was struggling to afford rent and groceries. On top of that, her ex-partner had recently stopped paying child support, leaving her to shoulder the financial burden alone. Overwhelmed and ashamed, she had withdrawn from the program, fearing judgment from others. Maya's heart broke hearing Jasmine's story, but instead of offering empty reassurances, she sprang into action. That evening, she rallied the volunteer team to organize a care package for Jasmine's family, complete on food vouchers, baby essentials, and gift cards. She also connected Jasmine with a local employment agency that specialized in helping single parents find flexible jobs. Within weeks, Jasmine landed a part-time position at a daycare center, allowing her to earn income while spending time with her children. Seeing Jasmine's transformation reignited Maya's passion for the program. She realized that true change didn't come from grand gestures. It came from showing up consistently, listening deeply, and meeting people where they were. Each success story fueled her desire to expand the initiative further, reaching even more families in need. Word about the program spread quickly. thanks in part to Maya's knack for storytelling. She began documenting the experiences of the women she worked with, sharing their journeys on social media and through local news outlets. The stories resonated with people far beyond the community, inspiring donations, partnerships, and offers of support from unexpected places. Local businesses donated space for events, schools provided free tutoring services, and healthcare clinics offered discounted checkups for participants and their children. Before long, what had started as a small volunteer effort blossomed into a thriving nonprofit organization. Maya officially named it Roots of Resilience, symbolizing the strength and determination of the women she served. The mission was clear: to empower single mothers and their families by providing education, resources, and a supportive community. What made Roots of Resilience unique was its holistic approach. It wasn't just about solving immediate problems. It was about equipping women with the tools and confidence to build brighter futures for themselves and their children. Despite the growing demands of running the nonprofit, Maya never lost sight of why she started this journey in the first place. She remembered Sarah, whose gratitude had sparked it all, and the countless other women who reminded her daily of the power of compassion. Every milestone, whether it was helping a mother secure stable housing, watching a child take their first steps, or seeing a participant graduate from a training program, felt like a victory not just for them, but for Maya too. By the end of the year, Roots of Resilience had grown beyond anything Maya could have imagined. What began as a single act of kindness on an airplane had transformed into a movement that touched hundreds of lives. And yet, Maya knew this was only the beginning. As she looked ahead, she envisioned bigger goals: opening a permanent resource center, expanding services to underserved areas, and advocating for policy changes that would benefit low-income families nationwide. Through it all, Maya carried with her the lessons she'd learned along the way: that purpose wasn't something you found, it was something you created. And sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could set off a chain reaction, leading to something extraordinary. Years had passed since that fateful flight, and Maya's life had transformed in ways she could never have predicted. What began as a single act of kindness, a decision to give up her first-class seat for a pregnant stranger, had blossomed into something far greater than herself. Roots of Resilience, the nonprofit organization she founded, was now a beacon of hope for countless families across Los Angeles. The program had grown exponentially, expanding its reach to include not only single mothers, but also fathers, grandparents, raising grandchildren, and even teenagers navigating parenthood at a young age. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about thriving. On a crisp spring morning, Maya stood backstage at a bustling community center, nervously adjusting her blazer and glancing at the crowd gathering in the auditorium beyond the curtain. Today marked a monumental milestone: the grand opening of Roots of Resilience's first permanent facility. After months of fundraising, planning, and hard work, the organization finally had a home, a sprawling building equipped with classrooms, childcare facilities, counseling, offices, and even a small cafe where participants could gather and connect. For Maya, this day symbolized more than just the culmination of her efforts. It represented the power of collective action, the strength of community, and the ripple effect of compassion. As she peeked through the curtain, Maya scanned the room, her eyes lighting up as she recognized familiar faces scattered throughout the audience. There was Sarah, now confident and radiant, seated near the front with little Maya perched on her lap. The toddler clapped excitedly, oblivious to the significance of the occasion but clearly enjoying the festive atmosphere. Beside them sat Maria, who had recently earned her high school diploma and secured a promotion at her job. Her 3 children squirmed happily in their seats, dressed in matching outfits that hinted at how much their lives had improved. Jasmine, too, was there, smiling proudly alongside her son, who held a colorful drawing he'd made especially for the event. But the crowd wasn't limited to those directly involved with the program. Local leaders, philanthropists, volunteers, and media representatives filled the rows, eager to celebrate the launch of this groundbreaking initiative. Among them was Dr. Henry Carter, the retired obstetrician Maya had met on that transformative flight years ago. Though his hair had grown grayer and his steps slower, his spirit remained as vibrant as ever. He caught Maya's eye and gave her a warm, encouraging nod, reminding her of the conversation that had planted the seeds of her journey. The MC stepped onto the stage, signaling that it was time for Maya to take her place. Taking a deep breath, she walked out to thunderous applause. The sound washed over her like a wave, filling her with both gratitude and humility. As she approached the podium, she paused for a moment, letting the magnitude of the moment sink in. This was more than just an achievement. It was proof that kindness, when nurtured and shared, could grow into something extraordinary. "Good morning, everyone," Maya began, her voice steady, despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. "Thank you all for being here today. When I started this journey, I never imagined we'd be standing where we are now. To be honest, I didn't even know what this journey would look like. All I knew was that I wanted to help people. To make a difference in some small way." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces before her. "It all started with a simple decision on an airplane. I gave up my seat so a pregnant woman named Sarah could rest comfortably during a long flight. At the time, I thought it was just a nice thing to do. But that one act of kindness connected me to Sarah, and through her to so many others who needed support. It taught me that sometimes the smallest gestures can lead to the biggest changes." Maya went on to share stories of resilience and triumph, from Maria completing her education while juggling multiple jobs, to Jasmine rebuilding her life after hitting rock bottom, to countless other women and families who had found strength and solidarity within the Roots of Resilience community. She spoke passionately about the importance of lifting each other up, of creating spaces where vulnerability is embraced rather than feared, and of empowering individuals to break cycles of poverty and hardship. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in agreement or wiped away tears. When she finished speaking, the room erupted in applause once again. Maya stepped back from the podium, allowing others to take the stage, including Sarah, who delivered a heartfelt speech thanking Maya for changing her life. "I didn't know it then," Sarah said, holding little Maya close. "But that day on the plane wasn't just about a seat upgrade. It was about connection. It was about realizing that even in our darkest moments, there are people willing to extend a hand. Maya didn't just give me a seat, she gave me hope, and because of her, I'm able to give that same hope to my daughter." Dr. Carter followed with a brief but powerful address, praising Maya's leadership and vision. "When I met Maya on that flight, I saw someone with potential," he said, his voice rich with admiration. "But what I didn't realize was just how much heart she had. She reminds us all that true success isn't measured by titles or accolades. It's measured by the lives we touch and the legacy we leave behind." By the end of the ceremony, the energy in the room was electric. Guests mingled, sharing stories and exchanging contact information, eager to get involved in the mission. Children laughed and played in designated activity areas, while parents explored the new facilities, marveling at the resources available to them. For many attendees, this wasn't just an event. It was a turning point, a reminder that no matter how challenging life might seem, there is always light to be found. As the afternoon drew to a close, Maya took a quiet moment to reflect. Standing outside the newly opened center, she watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city. In that stillness, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. This journey hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, doubts, and moments when she wondered if she was doing enough. But every struggle had been worth it, because she had stayed true to her purpose. Looking back, Maya realized that giving up her first-class seat hadn't just changed Sarah's life. It had changed hers too. That decision had set off a chain reaction, leading her to discover her passion, build meaningful relationships, and create something lasting. It proved that acts of kindness, no matter how small, have the power to transform not only individual lives but entire communities. As she turned to rejoin the celebration, Maya smiled to herself. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but one thing was certain. She would continue paying it forward, spreading love and hope wherever she went. because in the end, it wasn't about the destination, it was about the journey, the connections and the impact they left behind, and for Maya Robinson that was more than enough.